Hey, how you doing, guys? Before we get to the actually very interesting topic, I recently got a letter from YouTube, and this had to do with I recently surpassed 1,000 subscribers last week on Sunday, and about almost a little bit over a week later, they approved my channel for monetization. Of course, I have to thank all my subscribers for that. So thank you. It really helps. And it's not just for the money, because it's each level. For instance, going to 1,000 subscribers, not only do you get monetization, you get other perks as well. In fact, as I was making this video, YouTube sent me another notification saying I get some comments that I can now make. It's enabled. So just to give an example, I can't remember what the next tier is. You get more support and other things. So again, thanks to the subscribers for you guys for doing that. Okay, as far as the court case, this has to do. Recently, they announced the what happened Supreme Court case, which is Apple versus Pepper. And let me bring these other notes up on the computer because I'm going to read that as well. And this has to do where there's a class action lawsuit against Apple for they're saying there's a monopoly in the App Store. And in another court case, actually a couple court cases, consumers aren't allowed to sue under the antitrust laws because normally that's more of a federal case thing for them to do so. And for instance, this actually also goes back to a 1977 court case, which is Illinois Brick Company versus Illinois. That basically says, of course, consumers don't have that right against under antitrust laws. And I'm going to give you an example of the reason why. For instance, let's say you go to a deli, and that deli can only get their flour to make their bread from one place, and let's say it may be higher costing than others. Consumers can't sue that flour company because there's other costs involved for the pricing of that sandwich. For instance, it could be the store's location may be higher rent. It could be dozens or hundreds of variables. Could be the cost for the other ingredients. So pricing is not necessarily based on the price of flour alone. So this is just an example why consumers couldn't sue under this. So the Supreme Court ruled, and this is, I'm going to read it off my other notes here on the computer. The court says we disagree. The plaintiffs purchase apps directly from the Apple and therefore are direct purchasers under Illinois Brick. At this early pleading stage of the litigation, we do not assess the merits of the plaintiff antitrust claims against Apple, nor do we consider any other defenses Apple might have. We're merely holding that the Illinois Brick direct purchaser rule does not bar these plaintiffs from suing Apple under the antitrust laws. We affirm the judgment of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. So this court case is not implying by the Supreme Court saying Apple is a monopoly, okay, or that they agree with the plaintiff's court decision, because basically all this is doing is allowing consumers to sue Apple, so they have to do another hearing with another court, and then they're going to figure out, well, yes or no, either for or against Apple or consumers, depending how you want to say it. So, in fact, the plaintiffs not even arguing Apple is a monopoly, but it says here they are arguing Apple is monopolizing the distribution of those apps and not the app themselves. So basically, what they're saying is, by Apple adding 30% commission for all the apps in the App Store being sold is increasing the prices, where otherwise getting the app somewhere else could be allow for more competition and all that. Now, I'm kind of mixed on this, and I explained where I didn't think Apple was necessarily a monopoly, because you can get this from other places as well. But check out some of my other videos on that if you're more interested. And like I said, this is not necessarily going to affect Apple per se. It could also affect other stores that have very same business models as Apple. In fact, Apple's probably the most well known for an app store, starting it and all that. So anything commission-based platform, which could be console gaming, Steam, various platforms, Android, and possibly even Amazon. And they're getting quite rich on this as well. Of course, Amazon's a little bit different because you can easily go anywhere outside Amazon and buy the same merchandise as well, but it may affect them some way indirectly. And then that comes back to saying, how is this going to affect the developers, and are they necessarily going to lower their prices based on this? For instance, let's say the consumers take Apple to court now because the Supreme Court said they can assume over antitrust issues. And let's say the consumers win over Apple. So what do you think developers are going to do? Are they going to lower their price from 99 cents down to 70 cents? Or are they simply going to keep the 30% profit? And I'm guessing they're going to probably keep 30% profit. I don't necessarily think they're going to affect developers in any way. The only difference is, instead of Apple getting the profit, it's going to go to the developers. That's what I foresee initially. And really, if you take a look at Apple as far as their pricing, I'd say the large majority of the app prices in the App Store right now for Apple is either it's free, in-app purchases, or 99 cents. Of course, the higher we go in the cost of apps, the less of that app is probably going to be available for purchase. For an example, apps that cost $99 for some reason in the App Store, you're probably not going to find very many apps priced that much, because consumers simply don't see the value in a $99 app for a phone. It makes more sense to have $99 in a desktop, where it's going to be a more powerful computer. Your productivity is probably going to be much faster because you have keyboards, mouses, and other input devices, and so on. So I don't think the pricing is necessarily unwarranted. In fact, right now, the highest price app that I bought in the App Store is Filmic Pro, which is $14.99. And I did get an additional in-store purchase for the photographers, I can't remember what it was. It was an add-on inside the app. It was $10 extra, which for that powerful app I considered more than worth it, perhaps even worth a little bit more. So pricing is still very good within Apple or even any other Android Google Play Store. I think they're priced, pretty good the way as is, but we'll see. So I thought this is a very interesting court case I want to talk to you guys about. And definitely I jumped on it. I'm like, oh, I got to look into all this today. It just came out today in the news feed. So I want to talk to you about it. And as always, thanks for watching, and see you guys later. See you guys later.